there is a huge congregation. If all across the globe, without a temple, if somewhere preaching is happening so effectively, that's actually Middle East. So that is hats off to you, hats off to the leadership, and all the wonderful devotees here who are inspiring, managing, organizing everything there. So wonderfully, beautifully. Hare Krishna. So, so one verse, verse which I thought which we may take today is a verse from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, and this verse is, it doesn't contain a purport, but yes, it is about Lord Chaitanya now deciding to go to South India for preaching. Yeah, so this is about that. So shall I do Kirtan for 2-3 minutes? Is that okay?
Yes, Prabhuji, yes, please.
Okay, all right. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari, Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana, Yamuna Tiravanachari, Yamuna Tiravanachari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki jai, Vaishnava Bhaktivinoda ki jai. So this verse is like this. E mate sarvabhaume nistarya karila, dakshine gamane prabhu ichha upajila. So the translation is like this. After delivering Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, the Lord desired to go to South India to preach. So Lord Chaitanya is now on his preaching tour. So for 6 years he spent, he spent 6 years in his life just preaching. First 24 years he spent as a householder, but of course, last few years were there in preaching. And then he went to South India and he met various people and he preached after taking sannyas when he went to South India. And last 18 years he spent in Jagannath Puri. So 24 plus 6 makes 30, 30 plus 18 makes 48. So in this way, for 48 years, Lord Chaitanya was there on this planet, but his 6 years he spent exclusively, he's doing preaching. So today we'll try to discuss about preaching is the sense. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Hridamayyam Vidati Spadandikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttamatakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavascha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaganadaktatanitam Tam Sachipam Sadhvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Shri Vitascha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchan Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Suddevi Parvamari Priye Vansha Kalpurvascha Kripasindu Devacha Patadanam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Govinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Om Shri Krishna Prishai Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pacharne Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Devstarine Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langai Tegri Nitya Patam Shri Guru Atari Paramananda Hare Krishna. So after delivering Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Lord Chaitanya made this plan that he will go to South India. He met various devotees, and usually see in terms of preaching, Lord Chaitanya did class preaching and Lord Nityananda Prabhu did mass preaching. So both the kinds of preaching they are required. We should also do class preaching. We should also do mass preaching. Of course, in class preaching, one may have very less number of devotees, very less number of people being taken care of, but they are, if they take to Krishna consciousness, wow, bang on. So like Lord Chaitanya, in the case of Lord Chaitanya, we see that he never had any Pandal program, no Bhagavad Saptas, nothing. One person, Shri Rupa Goswami, Shri Sanatana Goswami, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Keshav Krishna. One-to-one he was doing like that. And then mass preaching was done by Lord Nityananda Prabhu. Lord Nityananda Prabhu went to various places. So that case, Lord Nityananda Prabhu did mass preaching. But yes, both the kinds of preaching are required. So one time, one devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, he said, Srila Prabhupada, what is more important? To preach Krishna consciousness or going back home, back to Godhead? Out of the two, which is more important? And then Srila Prabhupada said, well, the one who is preaching Krishna consciousness is already back to Godhead. Well, the one who is preaching Krishna consciousness is already back to Godhead. So that means if out of the two, if we have to choose what is more important, well, we should be preaching. That's it. So the other person whom we are preaching, he may become devotee, he may not become a devotee. But one person becomes a devotee for sure. The preacher becomes a devotee. And in the preacher's mind becomes the devotee. That rascal number one in this personality is the mind, the rascal mind. So manah can be taken care of by preaching actually. Sometimes like devotees, they say, Prabhuji, today I'm feeling very weak. I'm spiritually very weak. So I cannot preach. I cannot preach. Actually, such a person should go and do preaching. If you are feeling spiritually very weak, go and preach. Speak about Krishna to somebody. The other person may not become a devotee just because you don't have the purity currently. But one person will become a devotee for sure, and that is myself, the one who is speaking about Krishna. So that means it is very, very important that we must preach. When somebody asked, Srila Prabhupada, what will happen to your followers after you leave? He said, all of my followers will become hippies after I leave. Shocking. And then with a pause, he said, if they do not preach, they'll all become hippies. In fact, one Srila Prabhupada, he had a globe. Sometimes we have this globe, and then he was revolving this globe. And then he would pinpoint somewhere. Here I'll send Tamal Krishna. Here I'll send Gaur Govind Swami. Here I'll send Garga Muni. Here I'll send Jayapataka Swami. In this way, he was removing this, revolving this globe, and then he was pinpointing, here I'll send this guy. This showed, actually, when somebody asked him, that Srila Prabhupada, what are you doing? He said that actually, I'm so much relaxed that my disciples have become so responsible that they can take care of this preaching mission. Now I can retire to translate the books. Of course, all the Srila Prabhupada never took any retirement. But the point is that when they are preaching very effectively, then Guru becomes very happy, very satisfied. In fact, when once Srila Prabhupada, he was preaching to some group of people. So one person from Arya Samaj, he said, Swami, you are saying preaching, you are doing this, you are doing that. Are you preaching in Pakistan? And then Srila Prabhupada asked somebody, are you preaching in Pakistan? So he said, no, Srila Prabhupada, currently I don't think we are in Pakistan. Srila Prabhupada said, I'll send one of my disciples to Pakistan. Now this is the time of 70s. 70s war, Indo-Pak war, very tense situation. And after that, in the 70s, mid of 70s, 74 around, Brahmanand Swami was sent to Pakistan. Even the situation was very tense. Over there, people threw even tomatoes and eggs, and they were spitting on him. Yet he was preaching. And he was almost on the verge of death, actually. In fact, somebody actually put him on the gunpoint. He said, now remember whomsoever you want to remember. He was on the gunpoint, about to leave his life. And then he said, okay, all right. Namo Mishra Padaya Krishna Prishnaaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Charita Mere Visheshwar Nivadi Paschati Vishna Shri Krishna Chaitanya Shri Advaita Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Ram Ram Ram. But nothing happened. And those guys, they left, hey, in a day or two, leave Pakistan, otherwise we'll finish you. But he was saved. And Srila Prabhupada, he came to know that Brahmana Swami, his life was on threat. He immediately sent him telegram, come back immediately. And then I asked him, why you did not refuse me? Why did you tell me that what's the situation in Pakistan? Why you didn't share this with me? I said, Srila Prabhupada, I didn't want to displease you. since you sent me to Pakistan. So that's the spirit which they carried in the service of Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada's disciples, whether they continued or whether some of them, externally speaking, they fell down, all of them are legendary. All of them are legendary. Actually. All Srila Prabhupada's disciples, they are legendary because they gave their lives to Srila Prabhupada. Actually, one of the secret of success of Srila Prabhupada's preaching is his disciples. If Srila Prabhupada would have got disciples like myself, Hare Krishna movement would have been closed there and then after Srila Prabhupada. It is just that he had disciples, amazing disciples. Wow. Once His Holiness Loknath Maharaj, he came to our temple and then he was saying that actually Srila Prabhupada did everything. We are just reaping the result. We are eating the ripened fruit of the preaching which he has done. We are doing nothing. All the hard work has been done by Srila Prabhupada. But then Mohan Rupa Prabhu, the temple president of ISKCON Ishtakala, he said, no, Maharaj, actually we, the second generation people, we are getting the ripened fruit. Srila Prabhupada did hard work, and you, the disciples of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, you also worked very hard. Yes. Like Srila Loknath Maharaj, he was preaching to this the bullock cart traveling Sankirtan Yatra, and he named this Bhaktivedanta traveling Sankirtan cart Rath Yatra, like that.
Padyatra.
Padyatra, not Yatra. Yeah, Padyatra. Thank you. Padyatra. And more than 252,000 kilometers they have walked till 2016. Afterwards, I do not know. In just 50 years, he has walked so much of Naam Sankirtan is being spread. Wow. So that is Srila Prabhupada's disciples. The credit goes to them as well for the success of ISKCON. So Srila Prabhupada was extraordinary. The disciples were also extraordinary disciples. Extraordinary spiritual master, extraordinary disciples. When they made a deadly combination, so something extraordinary was bound to happen. And it happened actually. So that phase, so preaching is very much. So why we should preach? And they're saying that preservation by propagation. When we do propagation, then we are able to preserve something. Like we say currently Srimad Bhagavatam is there in its most authentic form. There is no adulteration being done in Srimad Bhagavatam. Other Puranas, Upanishads, Vedas, some part of the Vedas is lost. It is said that 93% part of the Vedas is already lost. Puranas have undergone interpolation. Even Mahabharata has also undergone interpolation. But Srimad Bhagavatam is intact. The integrity of Srimad Bhagavatam is intact. The reason being, there are more than around 19 commentaries written on Srimad Bhagavatam. And there are so many Bhagavad Katha, Saptas, Bhagavad Katha, Gyan Yagya, Bhagavad Katha, Bhakti Yagya, this Yagya, that. So much of propagation. And through propagation, we could preserve Srimad Bhagavatam. So preservation happens of the message when we do preaching. Like that. So that is we have to preserve. That's very, very important. In fact, when somebody asked Srila Prabhupada, what will happen in case ISKCON gets closed? It was a hypothetical question. All across the globe, all the governments decide that, okay, let's ban ISKCON, although it is not going to happen. But just in case the ISKCON gets closed, then what will happen? Srila Prabhupada said then, ISKCON can be started by anyone who has all of my books. It can be started by anyone who has all of my books. And that's the power of preaching. That we actually preserve things by propagation. In fact, Srila Prabhupada, he registered BBT as a separate legal entity, although it works along with ISKCON, under ISKCON, but a separate legal entity, BBT. So that just in case this hypothetical condition that happens that ISKCON is banned, yet the book publication and book distribution will happen. It will continue like that. So preservation happens by propagation. So that way, this is the first benefit which we get. Second is that the Lord is immensely pleased. When we do preaching, the Lord is immensely pleased. And then we see that in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that the one who explains the supreme secret to the devotees, pure devotion service is guaranteed, he says. And at the end, he will come back to me. Yadnam paramam guhyam mad bhakteshu abhidhaksate. So the one who preaches this pure message, especially to the devotees, then that person, there is no servant of mine was ever so dear to me, nor in the future would there be anyone would be so dear to me, the one who is preaching Krishna consciousness. Preaching is so dear to the Lord actually. So we must preach because the Lord becomes happy. Yes. And we have seen that, in fact, Srila Prabhupada, in one of the lectures, he said, when somebody asked him, what is the fastest way of self-realization? He said, preaching is the fastest way of self-realization. So if somebody wants to grow very fast on the path of bhakti, well, preaching Krishna consciousness. So the Lord is immensely pleased when we preach. In fact, Lord himself wants to hear the glories, the Krishna Katha. Krishna Katha or Hari Katha is even dear to Lord Hari. The example comes in Ramayana. Love Kush, they were being trained by Valmiki ji in the ashram as he wrote the Ramayana. So he trained Love Kush to sing Ram Katha so beautifully that anywhere Love and Kush, they would go and recite the glories of Lord Ram. People would be hypnotized. They would be in trance hearing that wonderful recitation of Sri Ram's glories. And everyone would bless Love and Kush that since you recite the glories of the Lord so beautifully that one day you will meet that person whom you are glorifying, and you will have this glorification in front of the person whom you are glorifying. So that means you will have one day that rendezvous. And this actually happened. He was invited to Ayodhya, and Lord Ram personally invited him. And for Lord Ram, Ramayana is Ramayan, means Rama is Sita, and Ayan means the story which has taken shelter of Rama, that means Sita Devi. So he wanted to hear Ramayan. So Mother Sita would hear as Ramayan, where the story or the pastime has taken shelter of Sri Ram. So Ramayan. But Sri Ram would hear Ramayan. So he wanted to hear about the glories of Mother Sita. So with this desire, he invited Love and Kush. And then when Love and Kush started speaking the glorious, beautiful pastimes of Sri Ram, everyone was in trance. Everyone, including Sri Ram, he was also in trance. Now Sri Ram was sitting up there, and everyone was sitting down there on their asanas, and they were listening. And some of them, they got down from their asanas. They did not even realize that they have got down from their asana. And Sri Ram could see that everyone who was there, and they were laughing and they were clapping, and they were so joyfully absorbed in hearing Hari Katha. And Sri Ram, because he was wearing various ornaments, he took hold of his ornaments and gradually stepped down. In this way, he came to the same level where everyone was sitting. And Love Kush, they are reciting the glories of Sri Ram. They were doing Hari Katha. And then everyone was so absorbed that they did not realize that they are sitting with Ram. And when sometimes they would clap with Sri Ram, wow, what a pastime, yes, what a pastime, oh, what a description. Yeah. And once this hours and hours of trance in hearing Hari Katha, this happened, and then they realized that they were actually clapping with Sri Ram, they were hugging Sri Ram, and all of that which they were doing among themselves, they were doing with Sri Ram. Because Love and Kush, they describe about Sri Ram so beautifully. So that way, Hari Katha, the preaching of the Hari Katha is even dear to the Lord, that even Lord comes to hear the Hari Katha. Wow. So that is glorious Hari Katha. So you must preach like that. Our bhakti is preserved when we preach. Our bhakti is preserved. There was one devotee, he was sent to South India for preaching. And there were some Mayavadis and Chayavadis and Kayavadis and Ugravadis. So they met this devotee and they ripped apart all the logics and all the reasons, and he said, preacher, gone case. And then he came back so disappointed that I was defeated by these Mayavadis in South India. And then Srila Prabhupada said, so you went to South India for preaching? He said, yeah, Srila Prabhupada. And they defeated you. Yes, Srila Prabhupada. Did you read my books? So first you should read my book and then go and preach. And then 2 years this devotee exclusively spent just to read Srila Prabhupada's books with absorption. And then when he went to South India, he was successful in his preaching. So when we preach, always we are upgrading ourselves. Because how can I preach without upgrading my own self? Like in Hindi we say, bhajan hai ahar, prachar hai dakar. Bhajan hai ahar, prachar hai dakar. So we can belch, provided I have taken some nourishing food. In case somebody wants to have a belch, or someone wants to belch with a flavor of Alfonso mango. Is it possible to have belching with the flavor of Alfonso mango without eating Alfonso mango? How is it possible? That's not possible. So we take Alfonso mango and then the flavor is there of Alfonso mango in the belching. Similarly, our bhajan, our chanting, our grooming, our self-grooming, that is our ahar. And the preaching which we do, that is actually the belching, the preaching that we do. But yes, in case if I want to have good belching, then I should have good ahar as well. So that means our bhakti is preserved when we preach. Yes, our bhakti is preserved. In case, as I mentioned, that in case you are feeling weak, do preaching, do some kirtan. Yes, not that I'll sit at home. No, no, I'm so weak. I'm so once I become strong, then I'll start preaching. No, that's not anyone. Just catch hold of somebody and just start downloading Krishna Katha, and you will see that you will be uploaded, you will be upgraded in Krishna consciousness by preaching. So that is we are uplifted. So what all is required in a preacher so that he can do preaching? First thing is that he should have faith in one's spiritual master and the holy name. That's very important. In case somebody is not having this faith in the holy name and one's guru, which actually fuels one's own convictions, one cannot preach Krishna consciousness effectively. Actually, in this world, we see that there is a battle of convictions. The one which will have taller conviction will eat the conviction of the one which is less tall. So that means the more conviction we have, the more effective preaching we can do because of the level of conviction which we have. Like Srila Prabhupada, when he went to USA, Srila Prabhupada's conviction, the altitude of Srila Prabhupada's conviction in Krishna was much more than the altitude of conviction of the Americans in sense gratification. And that's why, because his conviction was taller than the conviction of the Americans in sense gratification, that's why Srila Prabhupada's conviction ate up the convictions of the Americans in sense gratification. So that is what is preaching. But it comes from the faith in the spiritual master. There was one more disciple of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada who was being sent to Europe for preaching. Some group of 3 devotees were being sent. And when he came back, he had long hair, he was wearing Western clothes, and he had one lady along with him whom he had preached with great difficulty, and she had become like partial devotee, but not really a full-time devotee, really a fully convinced devotee. So he was being sent, but he was a failure. Every month, 700 rupees were being sent. During those days, 700 rupees. 700 rupees every month. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur Prabhupada used to send him to Europe. And Srila Prabhupada just took 40 rupees. That's it. But Srila Prabhupada was successful. So one of the disciples, Akinchan Krishna's Babaji Maharaj, the godbrother of Srila Prabhupada, he asked this disciple of Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur Prabhupada, he said, well, you are also being sent to the Western countries for preaching. And our Bhaktivedanta Maharaj, he was also being sent to the West for preaching. You also know English very well. He also knows English very well. You also know Sanskrit. He also knows Sanskrit. He also went to the West. You also went to the West. But he was successful, but you are not so successful. Do you know why? He said, why? He said, because our Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, he had full faith in our Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. And secondly, he had complete faith, full faith in chanting the holy names of the Lord. And then because he had that, that's why he was successful. Because you were not having it, that's why you could not be successful. So first qualification which is required for preaching is that having immense, unshakable faith in one's own spiritual master and the holy name. Second, which comes as a consequence of the first point, the first qualification, is purity. Purity is the force. So Prabhupada used to give example of the wire. Just like if the wire is contaminated, in case it has got, it is not so pure. So because of the resistance in between the wire, 5 volt goes from here, but here reaches 2 volt. Why? Because in between there is heat dissipation. Why? Because there was impurity. So 5 volt here comes out 2 volt. But in case the wire is absolutely pure, 5 volt, 5 volt, there is no heat dissipation. Reason being, the wire, the conductor is very pure. Srila Prabhupada used to give this example. Similarly, the preacher is very pure. He would be able to present the message of Parampara as it is. As it is. But in case there is some purity, impurity within, so what one receives, one cannot repeat it. In case he would repeat, there would be adulteration, heat dissipation because of my personal impurity. So that is, more we are pure, better we can preach. We can present the message as it is. That's the thing. And that's why Bhakti Siddhanta Prabhupada used to say that preachers are of two kinds. One is known as Sar Raga Bhakta, the second is Ni Raga Bhakta. Sar Raga Bhakta is the one, he's a preacher, but he has got his own personal attachments. He has got his own ulterior motives. So the one who's having ulterior motives, the one who's having materialistic desires, and he's preaching, he's known as Sar Raga Bhakta. And another is known as Ni Raga Bhakta, the one who has got no mundane attachments, no ulterior motives, absolutely selfless, for the pleasure of Guru and Krishna. When he preaches, he is Ni Raga Bhakta. He's far more effective than Sar Raga Bhakta. So that is preaching really matters. Yeah. Sorry, purity really matters. And Bhakti Siddhanta used to say, Prana achayar se hetu prachar. Those who have prana, those who have life, they can preach. Those who are lifeless, they cannot preach. So purity is a force. Like that. So first point was having faith in the spiritual master and the holy name. And the consequence of that is purity. And the consequence of purity is fire. The fire of preaching. One should have the fire for preaching Krishna consciousness. When somebody asked Srila Prabhupada, are you the only pure devotee? Srila Prabhupada said, no, there are many other pure devotees. But I am the only pure devotee who is preaching. So there are other pure devotees as well. But yes, the one who is actually having purity, purity fuels fire, the fire of preaching. And as Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada used to say that even if there is nobody, preach to the walls, but you must preach. This is fire. And following this instruction, Srila Prabhupada, once he was there in his 26 2nd Avenue in New York, there was nobody in the class. And Srila Prabhupada actually gave the class. And he recorded the class as well. Later on, the disciples, they heard that class. And then that was published in the form of a book after transcribing that lecture. But Srila Prabhupada, actually, he used to give sometimes lectures when there was nobody in the class. There would be 3 Bhagavad Gita classes in a week. And sometimes there is no one. But he would speak. Even if there is no one, speak. But that kind of fire you should have. I'm not saying that you keep doing this. But in case you do this, one person will certainly hear. That's our own selves. But the fire of preaching, that is so much required. When we are not having that fire, then we are escaping the opportunities to preach. Like during the time of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Prabhupada, he said that, okay, who will go to Darjeeling for preaching? Nobody raised their hand because they were so much comfortably, they were living in the mutt, living in the temple. So who would go? Yes, anyone? Nobody was raising their hand. And then Bhakti Maharaj said, okay, all right. Tomorrow morning, the first person I would see, I will send to Darjeeling. The first person I will see. Next morning, everyone closed their doors. Nobody came outside. And we may not have to go. Darjeeling. Who will go? Where will we stay? What will we eat? So that's why everyone bolted the doors from inside and nobody was coming out. But one of them was also cook of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Prabhupada. He said, well, my Gurudev is hungry. I'm to cook for him. I should go out. Let him send me to Darjeeling. I'll be failure. That's okay. But I should cook for my Guru Maharaj. Today, yes, I must go. So he opened the door. So as he opened the door, it made some noise. So the rest, everyone could hear, oh, somebody has opened the door. That means somebody has now become the victim. Somebody is now caught up in that Darjeeling preaching net. Oh, great. And then he came out and he said, Guru Maharaj, he paid obeisances. And then Bhakti Maharaj said, so aren't you afraid that I would be sending you to Darjeeling for preaching? He said, Guru Maharaj, if you want to send me, you can send me. But I'm to cook for you because I'm your cook. I'm not a crook. I'm a cook. So that means I must cook for you. If I would not have come, then I would have been a crook. So I've come to cook for you in case you want to send me to Darjeeling. Okay, you send me to the Darjeeling, but I want to cook for you. So that is, and then hearing that, since he was here inside, so as he came and met Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Prabhupada, so rest of the sannyasis and other devotees, they also came. And as they came, so then Bhakti Maharaj said, well, since you are my cook, you have to cook for me. How can I send you to Darjeeling? Now all these who have come outside, now I'll send one of them to Darjeeling. Wow. So that is when we are not having that fire, so then we are escaping this opportunity to preach. But actually we should always be looking for the opportunities to preach. Like Bhakti Saraswati Prabhupada, he had so much of fire for preaching that he would sometimes do this, that inside the temple, he would just call out. Somebody's passing by outside in darkness. He would say, "Hey, you are in danger. Yes, a whirlpool will devour you." And then the person would say, well, from where is this voice is coming? This voice is coming from inside the wall. Yes, your life is in danger. You would be caught up in the whirlpool of cycle of birth and death. And then he would call him inside, preach to him. Wow. During the time of Bhakti Maharaj, he would even preach in radio. And he was so innovative in his preaching, Bhakti Maharaj, that preaching would happen on radio. And at that time, he would have kirtan with piano. And just see the broad-mindedness and the preaching spirit of Bhakti Maharaj. And playing piano, little Indo-Western kind of mix of kirtan, that kind of kirtan would happen. And that is what people would connect to. Wow. So he had that fire. Srila Prabhupada had that fire for preaching. Otherwise, at the age of 70, who goes to USA for preaching? Well, because he had the fire like that. So this is what is required. Faith in Guru, faith in the holy name, that leads to purity and that leads to fire. So we must have that fire. Like in Catholics, they say, if you're not preaching, you're not Catholic. That's the way, that's the ideology we should carry. Similar ideology we should also carry. If I'm not preaching, I'm not a Gaudiya Vaishnava. I'm not an ISKCON devotee because I'm not preaching. I must be preaching. We should not just live like a creature. We should live like a preacher. Don't be a creature, just a creature. There are many creatures in this world. We have to be preacher, much more than a creature. Yeah, like that. Forms of preaching. There are two forms of preaching. Like during our school days, college days, we have seen that there is a classroom coaching and there are tuitions. Classroom coach is okay. Everyone is sitting in the class and I'm teaching everyone. Okay, everyone. So here is the Pythagoras theorem, A square plus B square equals C square. That's the classroom coaching. And there is one tuitions. When we sit with just 2, 3, and then we are discussing. And we see that actually the classroom coaching is effective, but much more than that are the tuitions. Because in tuition, we get personal attention to the people, personal attention. So that's the tuitions. Similarly, in preaching, classroom coaching is effective. Like say Srimad Bhagavatham classes, also like the Zoom classes. In a class, there are 300, 400, 5,000 people that are sitting in a Zoom class. Wow, classroom coaching. But more effective are the tuitions. When somebody sits with somebody one-to-one, that is more effective. Yeah, there are more exchanges, more reciprocation is there. So that's why it can have, both can be done. Especially the second one, which is tuitions, can be done by everyone. Everyone. Even if the person is not so learned, he can do. Like usually ladies, if they do not give lectures from Vyasasana, in case they don't feel it, they feel shy or whatever reasons. But they can do one-to-one. Especially Matajis, if they have decided to make somebody a devotee. The Phala Chopra ji has to become a devotee. In case she has thought this, this person would become a devotee. She would feed prasadam. She would also invite. She is amazing in follow-up. That person is bound to become a devotee. So tuitions can be done by anyone and everyone actually. And that's more effective form of preaching. This classroom preaching is a token release. After we get down from the Vyasasana, then starts the preaching when we have one-to-one. And that's why you see Srila Prabhupada's classes, 20 minutes, 25 minutes, half an hour, that's it. But he would meet devotees one-to-one. Tuitions, they are much more effective. Like in the case of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he gave tuition format with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Prakashanand Saraswati. One-to-one. So that phase, these are two ways of preaching like that. Of course, in terms of qualification, of course, one should be at least a Madhyam Vaishnava, that is required. One should be a Madhyam Vaishnava, so that one can discriminate with whom we should behave in what way. One can discriminate. Otherwise, those who are not so mature in their dealings, then we see that they behave in an inappropriate way, and instead of doing preaching, they do negative preaching actually, because they do not know how to behave. So Madhyam Vaishnava, he knows that I am to show a mercy to the one who is innocent. Kick on the face of the arrogant and envious, not literally, but in terms of just ignore. With the seniors, take shelter of the seniors. With equals, he has got friendship, and they also have Priti Lakshan with them, with each other. So that is a person who's Madhyam Vaishnava. He knows how to preach, what to preach, when to preach. He has that sensitivity, because preaching is a very sensitive work. If we are not sensitive in our preaching, sometimes people become annoyed with our preaching. Sometimes when we are not able to convince them, so then they are not, they say, well, yeah, it was good, but I could not connect. So having the maturity, what to speak, when to speak, in what way, that's also very important. And more important than that is also our behavior. Yes, our behavior. Once Srila Prabhupada was sending somebody to Russia for preaching. And the devotee said, Srila Prabhupada, you are asking me to go to Russia for preaching, but Srila Prabhupada, I do not know Russian language. Srila Prabhupada said, people would become devotee not by what you speak, by how you behave. That's how people actually become devotees. Suddenly we see that people become impressed by speakers because there are great orators, great speakers. But as soon as they come and see personal life of the preacher, Arey, my God, this guy doesn't get up early in the morning, eats just anything, his senses are not in his control, he's too frivolous with the opposite gender, and he's hungry for money. Oh, you impressed us so much in your katha, but your behavior is not so Krishna conscious. So that is, we are to be convince others by our behavior as well. Srila Prabhupada, when somebody asked him, Srila Prabhupada, why do you walk with your head raised? You even see Srila Prabhupada, when he would walk, then he's having his head raised. Somebody asked, why do you walk with head raised? He said, I walk with head raised, reason being our philosophy is highest. That's why I walk with head raised. And then he said, but there is one thing which is higher than the highest philosophy. And that is practice of this philosophy is higher than the highest philosophy. So that is, we preach also by our own behavior. Actions speak louder than words. That's very important. How we deal with people. So people, they take inspiration from how we behave, how we talk, how we communicate ourselves. Because we do not communicate words, we communicate our consciousness. We do not communicate words, we communicate consciousness. So we should be very conscious what we are communicating through our consciousness. So there are some expert people, but their consciousness is not pure. So people, they get impressed, but they do not stay. In order to retain people, we need purity in our actions as well. That's so very much required. All right, I'll stop here. I'll just take few questions now. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Devotees, if you have any questions, you can either type on the chat window or raise your hands and we'll unmute you. Hare Krishna.
Okay, if anybody has any question, one.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Bali Yagna Prabhu has raised that.
I have one question.
Yeah. Okay, Prabhu, Rasana Prabhu, you go first and then I'll ask Bali Yagna Prabhu.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. So first of all, thank you very much, Prabhu, for a wonderful class and very wonderful spirit of preaching and inspiring everyone, in this field of preaching, because it's very, very important, which Prabhupada said, preaching is the essence. Prabhu, I had heard one sentence. I just want little clarification. Obviously, it will be good for everyone also to know that we have heard one sentence which says that preach the whole day, 24 hours, but speak only when it is necessary. So can you please, elaborate little on this?
This sentence became famous from one Christian preacher in Goa. Actually, when he was asked that, when do you preach? He said, I preach 24 hours. Sometimes I speak also. That means the rest of the time, he is preaching by his own behavior. Sometimes he speaks also. That kind of preaching, that verbal form of preaching is also very important. But he said that I am 24 hours I'm preaching. Like Srila Prabhupada was also 24 hours he was preaching. And he would also speak as well for half an hour during Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatham class. He would speak as well. And we see that once people are purchased by the character of the person, then they listen to that person with more faith. In case we do not have faith in the person, even if the person does amazing katha, people do not, well, yeah, he's speaking great stuff, but we know his realities, we know his hidden secrets. Yeah, the dark side, yeah. He's speaking great stuff, but we know what's there in his heart. So first we are purchased by the person, and then the presentation of the person. First we are purchased by the person. Now you see that those who are having great faith in Srila Prabhupada, they take a lot of advantage by reading Srila Prabhupada's books. And those who do not have faith, they have never taken advantage of Srila Prabhupada's books, even though they have spent more than a decade in our ISKCON. Why? Because they don't have faith. Not that there is something missing in Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada is impeccable. But when somebody is not having faith, then he's not able to take advantage. So the point is that we should always be preaching. Sometimes we should speak as well, but mostly we are preaching with our own behavior. As you know, who is the best preacher? A happily practicing Krishna conscious devotee is the best preacher. Just by walking, he inspires people to become bhakta, because he will say, hey, मेरे को तेरे जैसा बनना है यार. I want to become like you, man. Here is Samir Prabhu. How can I have this smile the way you are having? I want to become like you. I know you do not give lectures at all, but when I see you, I see your smiling face, I get the inspiration. I want to be like you. Please tell me, Prabhu, how can I become like you? A happy devotee in Krishna consciousness. A happy devotee may not speak, but he is just walking by and he's preaching. Wow. Like Jayanand Prabhu was like this. Jayanand Prabhu was not a great preacher in terms of speaking, but he was a great preacher by his behavior. Even drunkards, they loved. Drunkard would say, all these Hare Krishna people, they are nonsense. They have only one good guy, Jayananda. He's our friend. And they would sometimes give vegetable to Jayanand Prabhu. Just because of Jayanand Prabhu's dealings, and his persona was so pure. So he was always preaching. Always.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji, for the wonderful answer. Now I will request Bali Yagna Prabhu to actually unmute yourself and ask the question.
Well, Bali Yagna Prabhu, I don't have some mystical powers that even on mute I can hear you.
You can speak now.
Yeah, I can speak, bro. I was not being unmuted, so now I think I got my voice back.
Please.
Thank you very much, Prabhu, for a very enlightening lecture about preaching. We got a lot of points about how to preach and what is that, why we should preach. So I have one question, Prabhu, that sometimes if we are preaching, as you have two types of preaching, also tuition and coaching classes also. So when we are preaching, sometimes we develop a sense of pride also, that I am preaching and this is I'm preaching and it is my effort. So how to deal with that pride and how to make ourselves humble always, even if we are preaching, and how to be in that humble state, basically.
Very simple. Sometimes we should also sit in the class. That's it. Simple. Our pride gets crushed if I also sit in the class. If I'm only giving classes, I just give classes. I distribute mercy. Sir, do you take mercy also? I should also be ready to take mercy. So in case if I'm ready to sit in the class of some other devotees as well, I sit in the class with pen and paper. That will keep me grounded. That will make me humble. You see that those people, who are the preachers who become proud? Those who do not sit in anybody's class. They only come to give class, but they never come and listen to the class. So every day we should hear the class. We should hear from Vaishnavas. Sit in a class with a humble way, with pen and paper. This will not allow the pride to enter our heads. So that in case we develop pride, we have our guardians. They would screw us. Yeah. Hey, Prabhu, what's happening to you? Huh? You're going proud. Once this happened to me, my spiritual master, when there was one devotee who was with me, he said, Maharaj, please bless me that I preach like Amogha Lila Prabhu. He's preaching so nicely, Maharaj. And then Gopal Krishna Maharaj said, you want to become like Amogha? His preaching is so artificial. He's such a superficial preacher. You want to become a sincere preacher? Become like Mohan Rupa, become like Rukmini Krishna, become like them. Why you want to become an artificial preacher like Amogha? He crushed my pride to powder. I was humbled. So whatever ego I had developed, I am a great preacher, I'm a YouTube celebrity. I was purified by my spiritual master. His preaching is so superficial. He's a camera savvy guy. This guy is camera savvy. He's a camera lover. His preaching is so superficial. Don't be like him. Crushed. That is not worry about pride. There are our guardians, our well-wishers. They will purify us. Yeah. But we must preach. And sometimes we do not preach, thinking that this is humility. I am humble. I'll not preach. I'll not make YouTube video. Why? Prabhuji, I'm very humble. I'll not preach. Srila Prabhupada gave one definition of humility. He said, humility means becoming aggressive for Krishna. What a beautiful definition. That humility means becoming aggressive for Krishna. So that means we should not worry about Ki mera yash bahut phal jayega, I'll become very famous. He is spreading Krishna's yash, Krishna's fame. If I also get famous, okay, ready. Even though devotees should not desire to become famous. But in case, if I become famous, but by that Krishna's fame becomes 10 times, I'm ready, man. Please, Krishna, make me famous, provided your fame expand much more by manifold. That's fine. So humility means becoming aggressive for Krishna. Instead of just saying, I'm fallen, I'm fallen, I'm fallen, I'm fallen. Excuse me, sir. Focus on how Krishna is great. Krishna is so great. Krishna is marvelous. Krishna is so sweet. Krishna is so transcendental. Krishna is amazing. Krishna is this. Krishna is that is. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much for a wonderful explanation, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much. There's another question on the chat box. He says that you spoke about mass preaching and class preaching. Is it necessary that every preacher should do both, or should I do what I'm able to do?
Actually, mass preaching and class preaching, both those who are able to do, they are very expert preachers. So in case we can do both, why not? There's no restriction. If you're doing this, you can't do that. Because you're doing that, you can't do this. There's no restriction like this. Preaching means preaching. In case I'm not able to do mass preaching because I feel very shy, so many people all around me, they are looking at me, and I feel, oh, my heart sinks seeing so many people staring at me. Okay, all right, do one-to-one. One-to-one. So that is in case we do both. Wow, wonderful, perfectly fine. But in case we are not able to do, but do whatever is possible to do. But we should do as much as possible. Preaching is life-giving. We give life to the other person. Second, first give life to our own self by glorifying Krishna. Whether from Vyasasan, whether off the Vyasasan, doesn't matter.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Vishal Asthana, Prabhu, you can unmute yourself and speak. Ask your question. Vishal, Prabhu.
I am your fan and I love you.
I also love you, Vishal.
Can I Vedant? Vedant, not Vishal. This is
What?
Vishal, which is sitting here.
What's your name?
Who's sitting?
Vedant.
Okay, what's your name?
Vedant.
His name is Vedant, Prabhu. His name is Vedant.
Acha, your name is Nadan. Wow, what a beautiful
Vedant.
name, Nadan.
Amogha Prabhu, Hare Krishna. First of all, my name is Vishal. We are in Abu Dhabi. We just wanted to say, big fan of yours. So much inspired by your words, your teachings, and we see your videos every day. And this little boy here, he's a super fan of yours, Amogha Prabhu. Big thank you for all.
I'm also a fan, Vedant.
He was so excited that you are coming here. So he मतलब ये भूल गया कि मुझे क्या बोलना है क्या नहीं. मैं ये बोलूँ उनसे कहूँगा कि Votim पे कॉल लगाओ. I have to talk to on Votim. Please.
So sweet of you. May God bless you.
Say thank you, Hare Krishna.
Chant Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Keep chanting Hare Krishna, beta.
Why?
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Vishal Prabhu. Thank you, Vedant. We'll go to the next question, Prabhuji. It's in the chat
Okay,
box.
next question, yeah.
That will be last question, probably, I think.
Okay, all right.
So, Prabhuji, you talked about Hare Krishna in preaching for Bhakti Vriksha children classes. Focus should be on quantity or quality of participants. Nowadays, more focus is given on quantity. So, what should we do? That's the question.
In terms of quantity of number.
Quantity, yeah, number, Prabhuji, number of devotees.
Yeah.
Number of children.
So in case, you see that actually quality attracts quantity. Quality attracts quantity. So that is, we should focus on the quality. When we focus on quality, then by even word of mouth, people come. Because they say, well, Prabhu, Biju Prabhu, he is taking such nice classes for children. You can also send your child. And you see quantity will automatically come just because there is quality. जहाँ गुड़ होगा वहाँ मक्खियाँ अपने आप आएंगी, तो मक्खियों को लाने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी. You should just focus on jaggery. Put the jaggery, put the honey, and then the bees would come. So we should focus on the quality. If a good quality will come, quantity automatically.
Yeah, Prabhu. Prabhu, is there time to take one more, or we should actually? Is there time to take one more question?
Take one more. I think we have got 2-3 minutes more.
Yeah. Okay. So there's one more question. It's saying that can we speak about Krishna's pastimes even if you have not taken a diksha from a guru? So if you're not an initiated devotee,
why not?
So can
of course, anybody can speak about. Yes, of course. One can speak about Krishna even somebody has not taken diksha. But yes, in case somebody is well equipped, he has understood the pastimes well, he can present it nicely. Why not? So diksha, no diksha doesn't matter. One can preach. Like our Amrendra Prabhu, such a remarkable devotee, super duper marvelous devotee. But before diksha also, when his name was Amarnath, he gave such superb lectures on the glories of the Lord. Lila Shrimati Radharani, Parsana Dham. At that time, his name was Amarnath. But Amarnath became Amrendra Prabhu. So he's preaching pre-initiation, post-initiation, he's preaching.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Prabhu, since we have 2 more minutes, I will take one more. So thank you for a wonderful class. What is the importance of book distribution as part of preaching? How can we motivate others for book distribution?
Okay, book distribution. Okay, somebody said, he said, so much you are saying books. What do you want people to become? Bookworms or what? Prabhupada said, well, in case you become bookworms, that's very good. Otherwise, the next life will become stoolworms. What do you want to become? Stoolworm or bookworm? Of course, it is better to become bookworms. So, of course, we should spread, do this book distribution. Prabhupada said once, he said, those who are doing book distribution, I'll personally take them back to God. Once he said that all those who are book distributors, Lord Chaitanya would catch hold of their shikha and take them back to God. Book distributors, wow. And book distribution gives so much of detachment from the material world because we see people are in a miserable condition. When we meet people, when we try to convince them about the books. So that is, book distribution is so very important. Wherever possible, we should go for book distribution. It's a very, very important. I just Prabhupada at BBT registered as separate and legal entity, so that book publication and book distribution may go on. So Srila Prabhupada would become very, very happy in case when he would hear somebody has done book distribution. In case of Bhakta Maharaj, in case somebody has distributed just one newspaper, he would have this paper of Anand Bazar Patrika, something like that he had, which he used to distribute. When any disciple would distribute even one throughout the day, and he would bring, say, 25 paisa, 50 paisa, 1 paisa, 2 paisa, he would bring. Bhakta Maharaj would become very, very happy. Very, very happy. So Srila Prabhupada also would become very happy by book distribution. He would say that I feel more young. I feel more young when I hear the book distribution stories. And once, in fact, he said, I will stay in that temple where there are maximum book distribution stores. So anybody wants me to stay in their temple, increase your book distribution. So book distribution was very good. Yeah, amazing. Very adventurous, because whom we are going to meet, we do not know. So uncertainty is the spice of adventure, and we experience the spice in book distribution. Because I was
Thank
in
you,
book
Prabhu.
distribution. There was one guy, he was police. He had red eyes, absolutely like a ruthless person in his appearance. And I was very much afraid in giving the books to this guy. He said, hey, come here. I thought he'll beat me now today. I was doing book distribution. Now this guy will beat me. I said, what are you distributing? I said, sir, Bhagavad Gita. So, won't you give me to a single copy? I said, sir, why not, sir? Please take. This is a gift for you, sir. You can take, sir. And no, I'll not take gift. How much is the cost? And then I told him 100 rupees. Said, just 100 rupees. Give me 2. And then I took 2 Bhagavad Gitas. The person who was looking like a jallad, a tyrant, a ruthless person, was so soft with it. And there are people who are so well dressed, gentlemen, but they say, well, I'm an atheist. So book distribution is very adventurous. Appearances can be so deceiving when we are preaching. So book distribution is a must for everyone. All right. I think to stop here now because time is up. Thank you all
Sure,
very
Prabhu.
much. Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
Prabhuji, yeah, before we Prabhuji, before we close, just I would actually request our very senior devotee from our congregation, Balram Desh, His Grace Sundar Kanaya Prabhu, to say a vote of thanks. He's also a board member and he's part of our part of our temple management for many years now. His Grace Sundar Kanaya Prabhu, can you actually please?
Hare Krishna Sundar Prabhuji, Dhan Pranam. I'm not able to hear you, Prabhuji. Your golden words. Yes, now
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Dhanat Pranam. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for very, very instructive class. And personally, I have a lot to learn from today's class. Actually, I'll just quickly mention a few points which I noted from your class. Actually, started with class preaching and mass preaching. That was something new. Am I audible, Prabhuji?
Yes.
Hare Krishna. Then you also mentioned about one wonderful thing that the Krishna consciousness preaching is more important than trying to go back to God is more important. You said
yes.
Krishna consciousness preaching is as good as going to back to God. And another thing you mentioned, which also probably applies to me, that if you feel spiritually weak, then you must preach. It was a very encouraging instruction that I heard today. And then you mentioned about the exemplary work of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, their unparalleled dedication. That you gave example of Ramanand Prabhu going to Pakistan, risking his life. Then also you mentioned about secret of preaching is reading Srila Prabhupada books. And the one very important thing which you mentioned about purity, you gave very nice. I am also engineer, so you gave example of heat dissipation. That was really nice. I could enjoy that. And then you mentioned very nicely that if one has a higher purity, the message is transmitted to down the line is also transmitted as it is. So there is no contamination. Then also you gave very nice example of Catholic preaching, that if you want to be Catholic, be a preacher. And you said that be a preacher, not a creature. That was one very nice thing. And one very important thing you mentioned about behavior. You mentioned Srila Prabhupada wanted one of his disciples to go to Russia to preach, and he says, I do not know Russian language. And Prabhupada said that your behavior matters. And then you gave example of Jain and Prabhu, that and also mentioned about the one actually who can be the best preacher is the one who can teach us by example by how happily you execute your Krishna consciousness. And one last thing, Prabhu, that one is you mentioned about humility. Prabhupada gave a very wonderful definition of humility, that you said that becoming aggressive for Krishna, that is humility. I have one question, Prabhu, for you. That's probably last question of the day. How to increase our respect and appreciation of Srila Prabhupada disciple and their exemplary work?
I would say then we have to read about them. Like there are many wonderful books like Many Moons by Giriraj Maharaj, and also Radha Damodar Vilas by Vyasakhi Prabhu. He speaks about in that book about
Janan Prabhu and
yeah. So that is, we should read the books, and this way we can increase our appreciation for these great devotees. Like about Bhakti Tirth Maharaj, there's Black Lotus and Journey Home on Srila Radhanath Maharaj. So these are wonderful books are there about these great disciples of Srila Prabhupada. Servant of the Servant on Tamal Krishna Maharaj. So we should read these books and then we can know about them and be in love with them. That wow, what disciples they were, extraordinary. Like Unalloyed is on Yamuna Mataji, unalloyed. One book on her likes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Please accept
So-
my humble obeisance.
Most of us do as well.
Hare
Yes.
Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Amogha Lila Prabhu, for your time. Hare
Many
Krishna.
thanks, Amogha Lila Prabhu. I know you are very busy. You took your time out and came to actually give us your association. And devotees assembled here, please note that tonight at 7:30 Bahrain time, 8:30 UAE time, we have a special session with His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj, who is going to speak on Chandan Yatra and stories from Madhavendra Puri's life. So please, all of you, actually, please log in on time and and take this wonderful opportunity to associate with His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj. Once again, Amogha Lila Prabhu, thank you very much. Thanks a lot for actually